Waking up on a Memorial Day, Monday, May 27th. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, with all the latest on the 49ers and the things that you need to know about. We got it all for you here. I'll just apologize right from the get-go to the audience, to you, Larry. You know, my entire career, I've been in afternoons or in the evenings, so I really never had to run into hangover broadcasts very often, but I got one today. I went out last night with a couple of guys I haven't seen in a real long time. We tied it on, and I feel like
what were you drinking? What was your drink of choice?
That's the thing. I mean, this is where I think mistakes were made. We went all over the spectrum. There was, I started with a dark and stormy at Hobson's Choice. Then we went to Zam Zam Room, and I had a martini, gin martini.
Oh, gin! Anytime you're mixing in gin.
Then we go to the Page, and that's where the shots and the beers started. Then we go to Nopa for dinner, and a cocktail before dinner, cocktail after dinner. Wine during dinner. It's just the roulette wheel of bad decisions was spun hard last night. And I feel it's really nice to see you, Larry. I hope you plan on carrying this entire show this morning.
I'll tell you, the wine hangover is the worst hangover. It's a pounding headache. I'll say this too. I mean, cheap beer will put you out in the worst way as well. You go Budweiser, you'll be done for a while. If you go craft beer, you'll probably be okay. But if you're mixing in hard alcohol and wine, I mean, you're just,
bad decisions were being made in
earnest. You need a party planner. You got to have a better game plan. You just went out there and said, I'm playing it as it comes.
Yeah. I know there was no chalk talk. There was no strategy, nothing. And, it was one of those nights where even if we had a chalk talk and a strategy, we probably would have thrown it out to just play it as it comes. And anyways, the pork chop at Nope is still world class.
Ganja jar, hit the ganja jar at all? Or
no, you know what? I actually did before I left the house, but at no time during the evening was that put on top of anything. I fell down straight up on Divisadero last night.
Divisadero and what?
Divisadero and Don't Fall There. Where was I? It was probably Hayes. No. We were walking from the Page.
You're just lucky you're still alive then, really. Yeah. I mean, if you went down in in Hayes Valley and you're here to speak about it the next day, you're a better man than
I was on the sidewalk, just hit a curb, and me, El Stroco Loco. The balance is never what it was ever again. So I'm easy to blow over. And I went down. So my knee hurts. My freaking shoulder hurts, Larry. I'm a 49-year-old hungover man who injured himself falling on the way to dinner last night. This is not a moment that is cloaked in glory. I'll tell you that right now.
I've spent the greater part of my weekend going from Walnut Creek to Rodeo and back.
You had a lot of baseball this weekend, didn't you?
We had an all-star baseball tournament, and our team just got smoked. Smoked. It was like 18-3, 14-1.
Mercy rule shit kick in.
Yeah, mercy rule. And the team that we played sucked. We just suck worse. I'm like, this is an all-star team. I mean, we couldn't catch. We got pop-ups in the infield. The pitcher can't catch. I mean, I realize in the big leagues, they don't have the pitcher catch much, but I mean, God, if you're in Little League and they pop it up in the infield and you're standing there and it's coming to you, fucking catch it.
Oh boy.
Unbelievable. Outfielders that couldn't catch, catchers that I almost went back behind the plate myself and just said, bro, what is this? Why even have a glove if you're just going to sit here and drop every single ball? So our catcher stunk, our outfielder stunk, our pitching stunk. We just were bad. We were just really bad. So anyway, so that was a morning. So gets this, my wife's like, Saturday morning, the game starts at 8 in Rodeo, and the coach wants us there at 7. So that means, and it's a half hour, 45 minutes from my house.
Right.
I'm waking up at like 5:45. on like a Saturday morning, driving to Rodeo, only to get smoked and then told, "Oh yeah, we're playing a second game at 4:30." So now I got to go home, pretend to watch an inning or two of the Giants Mets, don't doze off, and then drive back. And then I barbecued. We did a nice little tri-tip barbecue, busted out some watermelon and
it's good
corn and some of the summertime, the summertime fare. I love a good barbecue with couple little corn on the cob, a little tri-tip, a little watermelon dessert.
Corn on the grill. You do it right on the on the grill. That's the way to do it.
Then I made the great Amy some Lynchburg lemonades. Have you had a Lynchburg lemonade?
Sure. Yeah.
So we made some Lynchburg lemonades.
I probably should have stopped at a couple Lynchburg lemonades. Someone's like, fell down near Popeyes on Divisadero. I did.
Folded into the couch and watched both NBA series go to 3-0.
Did you watch any of the Indianapolis 500?
Didn't watch the Indy 500, but you know what I am watching today? Today is one of my favorite sports days of the year. You know what's today? You know what is on today?
Well, it's like baseball all day. I think the Giants got a 2:00 start. So it's
Giants got a 2:00 start, but today is the day. I played high school and college lacrosse. Today is the Final Four for lacrosse. And it's coming up here on ESPN as soon as these four idiots, including Stephen A. and Shannon, get out of their way. Stephen A. wearing pink today.
Oh, great.
But yeah, Maryland, Notre Dame play from Lincoln Financial. I'll be watching a little bit of that. I love watching that. And then I think
so. I love playing.
Maybe this is the final. This might be the final.
Larry, I love lacrosse. I played a lot in high school. I played in college too. The problem with lacrosse is it's a lot more fun to play than it is to watch.
I actually love to watch the field lacrosse game. I do like watching the field lacrosse game. And when you get the very, very best, it's like where it's a possession game where every possession matters. And these guys are scoring, tons and tons of goals. And what I love about lacrosse is that you can be 6'5" and awesome, and you could be 5'5" and awesome.
A lot of body types.
Yeah, you can, it's all about, speed and hand-eye coordination. And anyway, Notre Dame's pretty good. Maryland's pretty good. Hopkins, Syracuse, Virginia.
Well, any school from that Eastern quarter is, probably got a pretty good lacrosse team. It's big back east for sure.
Duke lacrosse. You remember the big story about the Duke lacrosse?
Yep.
They claimed there was a gang rape involved, and it turned out it was all big bullshit lie.
Yeah. It was that was a rough story.
Good 30 for 30 though.
Wait, just a little casual. Hey, how are you? Remember Duke lacrosse rape story? Yeah, I do. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. So we're here to talk 40.
So here we are. It's Memorial Day.
Can
you say Happy Memorial Day? Not really. Huh? You say like
it's a weird thing to say, right? It's a weird thing to say.
Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Veterans Day is for anybody who served. Memorial Day is for people who died in service.
Yep. And Armed Forces Day is for active military members.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So my dad was a JAG Corps attorney. My grandfather fought in World War I. So the military, I've got USAA insurance because of it. Damn it. When I see Gronk wanting USAA, I'm like, no, Gronk, your parents were not military people.
You got to serve.
I don't care if you're doing commercials. You're not part of us. No, but yeah, no, I'm very, very proud of my late father and late grandfather and their service to our country. And thank you to everybody who has paid the ultimate price to make it so you and I can sit here and,
talk about nothing as if
talk
it were
about
important.
nothing and have this be, actual life. So
yeah, Larry,
thank you to everybody who came before us.
My dad was a Vietnam veteran, and all I can tell you is that it haunted him his entire life. He didn't.
I saw that you tweeted about that the other day. Did you go to the wall there?
No, I have been to the wall when I was in.
I have too. It's an amazing. It's an amazing.
It's powerful. It's
very
powerful. It's bigger than you think it is. It's bigger than it looks in any picture or any TV, and you just see it all, and you just
names just
what a waste! What a waste of all these, young men's lives. And it's just, again, it haunted my father. It stayed with him. He didn't talk about it. He couldn't, he wouldn't, he just, men were a different breed back 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
What year was your dad born? Do you know?
Born? No, I don't know off the top of my head what year my dad was born.
He's no longer with us, right?
He's no longer with us. He passed away in 2016.
Do you know how old he would be right now? I'm just kind of wondering. My dad was born in 37, and so
my dad was born in, I think my dad was born in like 45 or 6.
Yeah. So my dad was just getting out of the military, and starting his legal career. My dad was based in Charlottesville, Virginia, and he went to boot camp there, and was part of the Army JAG Corps there. But I think Vietnam started in earnest in what, 60, 66, 67, something like that.
I don't know. You're asking me like
mid to late 60s.
Yeah.
The conflict began and went well into the early 70s. But my dad at that point was already, so your dad's just a little bit younger.
Yeah. It was it definitely did. It stayed with him, and thanks to everyone, for the ultimate sacrifice who made it. It's some powerful shit, man. Yeah. Okay, let's just change gears. Let's get to the point that we're all gathered here for. I don't know how much time.
First of all, we got an ongoing pool. Will Damon yak? That's the pool. Will Damon yak in the middle of the stream?
No.
I want to hear from the chat. If you're on my side, if you're on Damon's side, either way, the question of the day: will Damon Bruce yak midstream? What are you sipping on there?
That's coffee.
All right.
That's mandatory coffee.
What about just maybe some aqua?
I've already had like 6 glasses of water. I'm going to have to get up and pee during this show more than I'm going to throw up during this show. Anyway, so there's not a lot of 49ers news. There's just not a lot happening. It's the kind of, it's the time of year where, you're on a little bit of a vacation, maybe this weekend after a week of OTAs. There's not a lot of business getting done. And there's still some speculation around Brandon Aiyuk and where this contract is. And that's really all the news that we have for you. That
Jeremy Fowler had that story on Saturday morning that the Niners and Aiyuk remain far apart and nothing's imminent.
And Fowler says Aiyuk doesn't need to be the highest paid guy in the league. Fowler reported on NFL Live, but he's done enough and he's accomplished enough in that offense where he's probably going to need a number that is, a big number out there. And Brandon Aiyuk, according to Mike Garofalo, is looking for an Amon-Ra St. Brown neighborhood kind of contract. That's 4 years, $120 million with 77 guaranteed. I have thought during this entire thought exercise that he's looking at a guarantee north of $70 million. And so, if he's looking for an Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's probably looking for an $80 million guarantee with everything else coming out in the wash somehow, some way. He hasn't asked out, but it's time to,
he hasn't asked for a trade.
He hasn't asked for a trade formally of the 49ers, but it feels like that's the direction this might go in. And Larry, if it does, I just feel kind of shame on them because the real trade value around Brandon Aiyuk felt like it would have been, best used before the draft. And to trade Brandon Aiyuk for future opportunities now, because you're not going to make and they got their starting right tackle in this Brandon Aiyuk trade now. No one's trading their starting offensive lineman at this point in the getting ready for the year. So it would certainly be the point that everyone could look at and say, well, if they didn't win the Super Bowl, that's why right there. I mean, it is a baked in excuse if things go wrong, if Brandon Aiyuk is not on the field this year.
Well, it does make you, the Niners, if they ultimately, I mean, there's lots of different ways this could go, right? For all we know, they've already agreed. That's why there's no trade demand, because maybe they've already agreed. They're just, They just want to do it on the time frame that they want to do it on. Many times the Niners seem like they announce these signings right before their player hits the field. So maybe they're hedging. Maybe they're hedging on as far as health all the way. Maybe they've agreed and they're hedging on, to make sure that it doesn't get signed until when they want it to be signed, when the player's going to hit the field, maybe at the beginning of training camp. I don't care if the guy misses, mini camp. But it'll be interesting to see, does he hold out for the mandatory? This is the voluntary.
I just think it's the wrong way to go about developing Brock in the off season that he finally gets to have. And Shanahan even talked about this, Larry, saying, getting Brock in with his guys and really building out this offense in an off season for the first time with everyone healthy and out there was going to be a leg up that they were going to get. Not a lot of teams get to flex the amount of continuity that the 49ers can. And it would just, I think, kind of suck if, such an important piece of your offense wasn't there as you're gonna be is the future quarterback is getting ready to try to win a Super Bowl now.
Yeah, now! I hear you, but there's also every rep you don't. I mean, he's got a rapport with this guy. He probably needs to develop his rapport with Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, which is probably what's going on right now. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. 10 years ago, now Randy Mueller did an interesting article this week on in the Athletic on this, on should the Niners, go and pay ridiculous top dollar to multiple wide receivers. And he writes that 10 years ago, the top paid wide receivers made about $16 million annually, which was about 12% of the cap at that point, which was $133 million. Today, A.J. Brown leads the way as far as average annual value at $32 million per year, but the cap's now at $255. So it's still at just roughly 12.5% of the cap. So, we've already, as he mentions here, the receiver market's already been reset twice in the past month, and it's going to be reset again when Jefferson and Lamb and Jamar Chase and Aiyuk all get their deals done. There may be a $35 million a year receiver, which would be 13.7% of the cap or more. And the Niners, of course, have already paid Deebo Samuel $23.8 million per year. And that's $28.6 million against the cap in 2024. And now with Aiyuk sitting there at $14.1 million against the cap in the last year of his contract, they have been at least mentioned in trade talks. Now it sounds like the Niners have gone beyond that and are no longer in that mode, but Aiyuk and Deebo are set to account for $42.7 million against the cap this season. You add in Pearsall and George Kittle, and the Niners have $56 million against the cap, 22% of their cap devoted to 4 pass receivers. And I kind of wonder if that is wise. I mean, I'll tell you one guy who is holding out.
If they don't think that is wise, Larry, they should have done that arithmetic in their head months ago. This shouldn't be like a thought exercise that they are now exploring. This should have been planned out months ago, and they should have handled business accordingly months ago. If you think that Aiyuk is officially on the wrong side of a bridge too far of a contract negotiation.
What if you're not getting those offers though? What if what if the best offer you had was a mid-third round pick or something?
But this isn't about offers, you said. It's about money and a refusal to.
But what I'm saying is, what are you going to do? You're either going to move the receiver in a trade or you're going to keep him and pay him. Well, that's the price that it's going to take if you want to pay him. And if you're going to trade him, we don't know what the Niners asked for, and we don't know what teams offered. So it's hard to kind of gauge that. But what we do know is that NFL teams selected 35 wide receivers in this draft. There were 7 that went in round 1 alone. So we're in a world where, teams are always in free agency going to pay great money to good players when there's a scarcity like there is a quarterback, but there's not a scarcity at wide receiver. If anything, there's more and more wide receivers now than ever before. So what's happened is it's kind of made every team kind of take a different approach. The Packers said, you know what, we're trading Devontae Adams. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl with Tyreek Hill and then yet traded him. And then what happened? Adams got $28 million from the Raiders. Hill got $30 million annually from the Dolphins. The Bills are in their Super Bowl window. They just traded Stephon Diggs to the Texans 2 years after they signed him to an extension worth $24 million a year. So, it's like we're seeing a number of well-run organizations look at their incredibly high-priced wide receiver and just say, you know what? We don't need to pay you that. We'll replace you. And Bills are in the process of replacing him. But the Packers, look at the Packers. The Packers have a totally young, cheap receiving core post Devontae Adams that's got a lot of upside and a lot of potential and has cost, 1/100th of the price. And look at the Chiefs. They've gone back to back. They've won back-to-back Super Bowls without Tyreek Hill. And they're going for 3 straight. So I guess the question is this. The one name that's out there that I thought was kind of interesting, I don't know if you saw this, but Tristan Wirfs, who started at right tackle for Tampa and then moved to left tackle, I believe either 2 years ago or last year, is holding out. He's not happy with his deal. Would you call, I mean, the Niners could really use Tristan Wirfs. Would you call Tampa and offer Aiyuk and a pick for Wirfs?
How about this? How about offering
Aiyuk straight up for Wirfs, a fair trade?
Aiyuk and Mason. Aiyuk and Elijah Mitchell packaged together could maybe get you Tristan Wirfs, right? Like you get offense in a box. There you go.
Maybe it's Aiyuk and McKivitz. Maybe you're trading, them a tackle, a reasonably cost tackle. I don't know, but I mean, at least when you look at the Niner receiving core, supposedly from what I'm hearing, Danny Gray's looked really good in the minicamp.
I don't want to hear it.
I'm just saying.
I know, but I don't want to hear it.
But I mean, he's one of they have 11 receivers right now. They've got JJ, Aiyuk, and Debo, Pearsall, and Cowing. Those are their first 5. Then you've got Danny Gray, Tay Martin, Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Trent Taylor, Tariq Owens, Terrell Owens' kid. There's still good receivers out on the free agent market, for crying out loud. If you want to go sign one, there'll probably be some decent ones at the cut down who get cut. I'm just saying, nope, they're not going to find Aiyuk there, but they're deep at wide receiver and they need a better offensive tackle. And now you get Tampa's Tristan Wirfs holding out. He is an offensive tackle. They have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, so I don't know that they themselves need Aiyuk, but maybe they would be willing to make a trade. I don't know. Might be worth exploring.
Absolutely, it would be worth exploring because if we're really like, where's the moment where it went wrong? And not that anything's even gone wrong yet, right? I mean, this could all still happen. He could be on the team, and that's fine. They gave too much money to Deebo Samuel, who is a very good football player, but not the best Brandon Aiyuk's a better wide receiver than Deebo Samuel. Might be an all-around football player at this point because they don't use him like the way that they used to. And with his oft-injured history, and Brandon Aiyuk is out there all the time. I mean, he doesn't miss games. They should have loaded up Brandon Aiyuk the way that they loaded up Deebo. And it's just a shame that his contract and that negotiation came up first because life is timing. And Deebo had an awesome year. He was used in a very unique way. And, again, I'm not trying to say a negative thing about Deebo Samuel. He's a very important part. But I think Brandon Aiyuk now does more to make the machine of winning spin in the right direction than Deebo Samuel does. So if you are,
Deebo's played some big ball in some big games, man. They beat the Eagles last year in Philly. He stepped up. Heck, when they were leading the Super Bowl in 54, the Super Bowl 54 against the Chiefs at halftime, he was the MVP in the first half. I mean, he's played some big ball in some big games. I understand Aiyuk's got more potential, better body, going to last longer, a little bit more complete receiver, better ball skills. But it's not like Deebo's some bum. Deebo's been pretty damn good.
I know. I'm not trying to
And
paint
he's
him
a
as
one in a lot of ways. He's a one of one. He's kind of his own guy. He's almost his own category of receiver.
but he's not even a fraction of the effective running back he was when they were using him.
Well, they just didn't use him. Now, last year with McCaffrey, they just didn't utilize him. I mean,
right, but
the
here's
talk
the thing,
was that he didn't want to be utilized as a running back.
Like Debo popped for nothing. I think he had a big run against the Rams. Like his longest run of the year, I think, was like 12 yards. I mean, he did not do an awful
His total
lot.
carries were way, way, way down, though. They just kind of stopped utilizing him that way. They didn't do as many end arounds to Debo. I mean, you're right. He's losing a step. But I thought he was in pretty good shape this year for the most part.
Yeah, Dale says, hold on. Dale says, BA only does receiver things. Debo does fucking everything. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. They do not use him as the Swiss Army knife, just as likely to get more carries than he is targets today. They don't use him like that anymore. And that's on Kyle. That's on Kyle.
Well, it's just because they have McCaffrey. They're and also I think, I mean, if I remember correctly, wasn't there some pushback from Debo's people on how he was being utilized?
Sure.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, and whether it was ever confirmed or not, I think it's pretty obvious that Debo's camp was not thrilled with them, using him as a running back. He wanted to be paid and utilized more as a wide receiver to lengthen his career.
Well, and there's just the whole we don't pay running backs sort of agreement that the NFL has made with itself. So no one wants to be in the gonna get a smaller piece of the pie side of the table of any negotiation. I mean, that's just the way running backs are treated. So yeah, they didn't want that running back stigma attached to a player they're looking for elite wide receiver money for. And they still got paid. I mean, look, Debo is really, really good. I think he's an important part of the swagger of the 49ers. I think he is an important piece. But just trying to win a Super Bowl next year, I think you need Brandon Aiyuk more than you need Debo Samuel. I really do. And I know that Brandon Aiyuk didn't have a great Super Bowl, but guess what? Neither did Debo.
The thing about it is Aiyuk is being asked, or he's asking for the kind of money that would represent more utilization than they've utilized him. I mean, they don't utilize him. He only caught 3 balls in each of the playoff games. If you're going to make $30 million a year in a cap sport, man, I think you got to, it's obviously about targets, not about catches, but I mean, you got to target him more. You got to utilize him more than they have. Now, maybe they will, but it's
they got the quarterback to do that now.
This offseason where they've added 2 receivers, makes you wonder what their plans are. I mean, there were still rumors middle of last week that the Steelers were after after Juwan Jefferson. There was Debo rumors. There's been Aiyuk rumors. Juwan Jennings.
Okay.
Juwan Jennings. Yeah, Juwan Jennings. I always want to call him Juwan Jefferson. But Juwan Jennings, so who knows? I mean, they have if you look at their roster, the Niners roster, they have way, way too many receivers. If, most teams keep 5, maybe 6. The Niners have like 11 or 12 NFL caliber receivers, and they're thin in some other areas. Who's their tight end too? We don't know. Who's their starter at free safety? We don't know. They could be deeper on the offensive and defensive line, but instead they're, paper thin in some spots and incredibly deep at wide receiver. So it does kind of lend itself to what's going on. Were these guys drafted to replace Debo and Aiyuk a year from now, or one of them a year from now? Is there still ongoing trades? Now, you can make a deal post June 1st and spread the cap hit over 2 seasons instead of 1. And maybe that's what we're looking at. Maybe there's going to be a deal, but it's not going to happen until June 1st. I would agree with you in that unless that deal includes a player coming back, if you're trading anybody for 2025 draft capital, that's a loss. That's a loss. And you're inside your Super Bowl window, and you're going to trade one of your existing great players, star players, for 2025 draft capital and make yourself worse in the present.
He is their best wide receiver. Full stop.
No doubt.
I don't care about the potential of any rookie. I don't care about the potential of any developing wide receiver that they're working on right now. None of them are as good as Brandon Aiyuk. And if he doesn't have the amount of targets that normal wide receivers who are the WR1 on their depth chart, that's on Kyle. And that's his game plan. And, you can't pay a guy according to how you use him in your game plan. You have to pay him market value. So the amount of targets that he gets really are irrelevant to this entire conversation. Who is your number one wide receiver? That guy. Well, then that guy gets fucking paid. That's how it works. And if you want to say, well, we're not paying that guy, you should have made that decision several months ago and gone about replacing that guy months ago. And if you didn't like the return on it, well, that's the entire league saying all of a sudden wide receivers are going to start getting that running back, you might not be worth it treatment. So, I mean, he might not be, one of the 5 best receivers in football, but he is the best receiver on the 49ers. And that guy gets paid. All NFL starters get paid. That's how it works now. That's it.
Yeah, but not $30 million. I mean, they get paid. They don't get paid $30 million. It's like every starting wide receiver makes 30. He wants $30 million. Is he worth $30 million?
That's going to be a very digestible number 3-4 years from now. As the NFL's adding games and revenue streams, and there's this cap is never going backwards, ever. So, I remember distinctly John Gruden saying, you can't have a $20 million a year player on both sides of the ball, right? Your quarterback can make 20. That's about it. And now,
now your quarterback's making 50.
Exactly. And John Gruden was saying that he will never enter a world which is just common now. What was unthinkable at the moment, well, you can't pay Khalil Mack that and Derek Carr that, is now just literally walking around the car lot. That's how you sell cars now. I mean,
here's my thinking on it. It's like you always want to pay your great players because great players are worth more than a bevy of draft picks because you're going to use a bevy of draft picks before you draft your next great player. So there's a failure rate in draft picks. So this whole, we're going to trade DeForest Buckner for 1 draft pick, and then we're going to replace him with Kinlaw. I mean, that's a faulty game plan. You had a guy who commanded a double team in the middle and Buckner, and you traded him for a mid-first round pick and tried then to find another guy cheaper, and it didn't work out. The guy wasn't nearly as good. He wasn't as healthy. He wasn't as dynamic, and you took a step backwards. And it took you 4 years to get back to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, you can't replace great players with good, but then you also, in a cap sport, you really can't fall in love with your guys. I mean, you don't think Green Bay, when they had Rodgers going, they didn't love the Rodgers to Davante Adams? I mean, has there been a better connection in the last decade than Rodgers to Davante Adams? I mean, they absolutely were. Rodgers could throw that back shoulder almost any time, and Davante would come up with it. It was an amazing combination. And yet they moved off of Davante and they went out in the draft and they found their guys. Maybe the Niners have to do the same kind of thing, but if they are going to move on from Aiyuk, it's very bizarre that they didn't do it on draft weekend.
Yeah.
Now here we are, it's May. It sounds like they're going to go forward with these guys, but you're still going to have to get it done. You're still going to have to come to some kind of an agreement. And who's better, Aiyuk or Amon-Ra St. Brown? Is he worth Amon-Ra money? Amon-Ra had a huge year.
Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown is used in a much different way than Brandon Aiyuk is used. I think that if Brandon Aiyuk got the Amon-Ra St. Brown game day treatment, you would absolutely have similar numbers. I believe that. I think Brandon Aiyuk is as good as the Niners want him to be. I mean, I really do. They choose a spread it around, we're looking for mismatches style of offense over force feeding player X, Y, or Z other than Christian McCaffrey, who again is another guy who's getting, his, I don't want to say money jerked around with, but Christian McCaffrey,
he's the highest paid player. He's the highest paid running back in the league.
Right. And he wants more money on a last year of a contract, which is absolutely normal. You don't get a running back who is the highest paid player in the league.
But I mean, the Niners are under no, they don't have to extend him before the end of the thing. They can maintain the 49ers are about to pay their quarterback 50 times what they're paying him. I think they're paying their running back the highest figure in the league. I don't think it's outrageous to say, hey, we're going to maintain our flexibility and we'll pay you when we have to pay you, but there's a lot of people that feel that these things are tied together.
We start his holdout then, Larry.
If I'm Christian McCaffrey, he may have already
been on the field. He's not on the field without a multiple year deal right now.
No, he's. You think he's not? You think he's going to hold out all summer? I don't. The talk was that he missed the OTAs and it wasn't tied to his deal.
Well, yeah, is it like getting married or something? I don't know. But
I don't know. Maybe, but I think it might just
voluntary.
It might just simply be one of those things where he's like, hey, you know what? There's no, it's just about exposure. It's like, hey, Christian, you have no more guaranteed money in your deal. So if you go down in the middle of minicamp and you suffer an Achilles, they're probably not going to take care of you. So maybe you should just show up for the mandatory stuff and don't worry about the voluntary stuff and risk and take less risk. And that's probably the advice that he got from his agent. That would be my guess. I mean, it's always, he could be just getting ready to get married, but he's not getting married till June. So he can't go to minicamp in May. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that one.
So if I'm Christian McCaffrey's agent, I walk in and I say, okay, with this guy, you really got a chance to win a Super Bowl. Without him, you do not. We want to renegotiate right now. He is far and away the best player on this football team. Right?
Well, I mean, and if you're Parag and the Niners, you come back and you say, well, yeah, and you've been handsomely compensated. You are the highest paid running back in the league.
Right, but that's not a deal that you guys made. That was the deal that you traded for.
Right, but we're paying you the most money of any running back in the league. So you can't sit there and say, we're screwing you. You're not getting screwed. You're the highest paid running back in the league.
Right, but exposure of playing without any guaranteed money going forward, I just think is you can't. It's like business malpractice.
Well, maybe these things are tied together. Maybe you pay Aiyuk and you move some money around, and that gives you a little bit more cap room in the present. And maybe you throw some more guaranteed dollars towards Christian with the money that you save in the present on the Aiyuk deal. So that's possible these things are tied together. But I mean, this is the challenge of building a football team. You have to make decisions based on, what you pay guys based on what you think they're going to be worth and how valuable they are to you. And you got to spread that money around. Where it's going to be interesting is that the Niners have a lot of money tied up in wide receivers, maybe too much for a team that doesn't throw that much. So what, so you can't pay everybody. They paid, I don't know if you can pay. Is there a team in football that is paying two top receivers, 25 north of 25 million per year? I don't think so.
What's Waddle making in Miami? Because we know Tyreek gets
still on his rookie deal.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still on his rookie deal. So that's what I'm saying. I just don't know. I don't know that it makes sense to pay that percentage of your cap to two wide receivers. And I think that's kind of the prevailing wisdom. But I don't know what the Niner plan is here, because you would think that if they couldn't afford Aiyuk, and let's just say the Niners wanted to pay Aiyuk $23 million a year, and he said his camp has been saying, I mean, we saw this from Ian Rappaport coming out of the combine. That was in February. That the report then was that Aiyuk's camp wants to wait until the market has reset itself before they sign their deal. Well, of course, because it's always going up, 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 up. Why would you want to sign early in the offseason and get less? Why wouldn't you want to wait until Chase signs and Jefferson signs, and they're all north of 30 million. And then you sit there and go, yeah, well, I want 30 million. And then, the rising tide lifts all boats kind of a thing. So if the Niners knew that was their plan, and Ian Rappaport knew it, then they either are not signing him knowing they're going to pay more money when they do sign him, or they're not signing him and they're planning on moving off of him and never paying him. But those are the options, right? So my guess is that they're in the same ballpark, and that it will probably get done. But I think this is also, very much the last year for Deebo Samuel. And I think, that if they go forward, it will be a 1-year deal that they go forward with Deebo and Aiyuk both making absurd money. And at the end of the year, they will probably say goodbye to Deebo.
That's probably going to happen. He is, look, Brock Purdy, the fact that they can't squeeze this all in now with Brock Purdy making $1.95 to be a starting NFL quarterback is kind of nuts, right?
Well, they're paying some guys too much. They're paying Juszczyk way too much money. Do you really need to pay Kyle Juszczyk the kind of money that he's made? He has been dramatically overpaid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not only that, you're paying your right tackle $7 million. So you're not paying your right tackle money.
Right. You got
a cheap right tackle value, but you got an expensive fullback. And then they're going to have to make this all work together, and we'll find out how good Parag is at his job. And then while this is going on, you got Fred Warner, who says, it's not a matter of if, but when the Niners win a Super Bowl. And now immediately I see today they've turned that, a lot of these headline different websites are like, Fred Warner is guaranteed the Super Bowl. I guess. He said that in his mind, it's not a matter of if, but when the Niners win the Super Bowl. I got no problem with that.
I got no problem with that either. Fred is not a braggart. Fred is not, look at me.
What do you expect him to say?
Roar. Yeah. The 49ers
We're never going to win.
The 49ers are favored to win every game that they're in right now. Everyone says they're the best team in the NFC. And they were just an eyelash away from winning a Super Bowl. A year after they were in the NFC title game, the year before that NFC title game, the year before that a Super. There is no team in sports who is under more pressure to get it done and win than the 49ers, maybe other than the Boston Celtics, right? The Boston Celtics have been knocking on that NBA door of championship for quite a while here. And they need to do it now the same way that the 49ers need to do it now. The
Dodgers or something like that. Dodgers don't, they spend massive amounts of money. Their last real World Series, without the pandemic was 88. I graduated from high school that year. So it's been a while for them. But, I hear what you're saying. The 49ers right now have an expectation that, they are – Kyle Shanahan's the best coach in football that has not won a Super Bowl. The 49ers are the best roster in pro football that hasn't won a Super Bowl. They've been there a couple times and they've fallen, they haven't gotten it done. They're in the middle of their go year. But it is interesting to hear him say, it's not a matter of if, but when. I don't, as much as I feel good about the 49ers, I think that's jerking yourself off. Seriously.
It is a little bit, but I also think he's, looking around the room and trying to answer the question honestly. I don't know what prompted him to say that.
You're not worlds better than everybody else. And it's like, you just shooting yourself in the foot.
Right.
No.
Well, what I think he does is he looks around the room. He
better coaches with better quarterbacks with better defensive linemen have beaten you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one
the better coach is Andy Reid. The better quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. The better defensive lineman is Chris Jones. The better offensive lineman is Creed Humphrey. The Chiefs have won because the Chiefs have been better.
But not by a lot.
Not by a lot, but
not
they have
by a
been better.
lot. But
no, but like if we had 100 football people in here, and we said, who's a better coach, Reed or Shanahan? Reed would get the win.
Of course.
Who's a better quarterback, Mahomes or Purdy? Mahomes would get the win. Who's the best defensive lineman on the field? Niners, Chiefs. Chris Jones would get that designation. Who's the best offensive lineman? It would go to Creed Humphrey.
There's an argument to be made, but
But I'm just saying, I mean, the Chiefs, it's not like the Niners gagged to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are better.
Yeah.
And played better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel about it. I like if the Niners were better than the Ravens. When you and I were sitting in the Super Bowl in New Orleans in Super Bowl 47, that Niner team was better than that Raven team, and they blew it. But this Niner team has not been better than Kansas City. They weren't better than Kansas City in 54. They weren't better than Kansas City in 58. So the better team won. And I don't care about being who was favored. That's a product of something different.
The 49ers probably have that 6th Lombardi trophy had they not run into what is an all-time team. Like this Kansas City, we're in the Chiefs era right now. I mean, they're running into Patrick Mahomes the same way the Sonics and the Jazz ran into Jordan, right? I mean, like,
or the way the Niners ran into the Cowboys in the 90s. I mean, those Cowboys teams in the 90s, we can sit there and say shoulda, woulda, coulda. The Niners were better in 94, but the Dallas was better 3 times in the 90s, So it's not always, we're in a hyper negative world. We're in this world where our interests come first, second, and third. It's like, yeah, Niner fans want to see the Niners win. And if they don't win, they want to have somebody to blame internally, it seems like. But there's not always an internal blame that goes around. Sometimes you get beat by a better team. And I would put Kansas City in that better team. Now, can the Niners overcome it and win? Yeah. I think Brock Purdy's going to have the best year of his career this year. I think the 49ers are an improved football
Wait, is
team.
Brandon Aiyuk on the team? Because if he's not going to have the best year of his career. He's losing his favorite target, his safety blanket. Purdy doesn't look for Debo or Kittle or McCaffrey the way he's looking for anyone, the way he looks for Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason for us sitting here to believe that Aiyuk won't be on the team. He's not demanding a trade. He's not holding out. That I think he said it like 9 different ways, all things being relatively equal. This is where I want to be. Lynch has said, hey, we love the player and this is and we want him here. So there's absolutely zero that points to him not being here. I mean, I can sit here and say, well, hey, would you trade him for Tristan Wirfs? And we could talk about it. I can sit here and say, hey, would you consider moving Aiyuk at, in after June 1st and going down the road in a different direction and trying to get some yeah, we could talk about it, but there's no printed reports or rumors with any credibility from any insider that says that they're even considering that. So it sounds like they're going to get it done. I just think Parag is a very tough negotiator. The Niners, want everybody at their price. And my guess is, Damon, they have an agreement already and that they just aren't going to finalize it until he's 24 hours away from hitting the field. And when he is, they'll announce it. That would be my guess.
I hope you're right. By the way, there's a guy, JM617, who's just like, oh, you got a victim's mentality. You're crying, you're whining, you're excused. No. This is how adults talk about sports. Get off your pom-poms, take them out of your ass, and say it out loud. The Kansas City Chiefs are better. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. They've got 3 Lombardi trophies. 3 Lombardi trophies since 2020. It is not a victim's mentality to admit that team's better. That team's better. They're not a little bit better. They're 3 fucking Lombardi trophies better than the 49ers have been. So, like, quit sniffing your own farts, dude. Like, the 49ers are really, really, really good. To say that they're the best team means you don't even know what the fuck it is you're talking about. Like, do you watch football?
Well, it's like it's been decided.
Well, yeah.
These teams have played.
It's over.
And
Yeah.
the Chiefs were better.
Right. Right. And if the 49ers do win the Super Bowl this year over the Kansas City Chiefs, it's still 3-1. I mean, so, well, not 3 directly against
not
the 49ers. It's 2-1.
3-0. Where's the one?
No, if the Niners win and even beat the Kansas City Chiefs,
the Niners. Yeah, it's different teams every year. I mean, the Niners. This would be the 6th Lombardi for the Niner organization. So in a way, it's number 6, but it's the first for Shanahan. I mean, Shanahan's a great coach. I think I'm one of those people that when people stand up and say he sucks and this and that, I'm like, you guys are high. He is Andy Reid in Philly. Do not kiss off Shanahan and let him go somewhere else and win 3 rings. But Shanahan's got to own his gagging and some of the decisions he's made and some of the bad decisions he's made in some of the biggest moments. And, that's your reality until you change it. So that's where he's at. As far as Purdy goes, I really believe Purdy's going to win a Super Bowl. I would say this is probably, he's now getting into what should be his time, right? Like, when is any player's time? It's not your rookie year. He got to the NFC Championship game as a rookie. It's usually not your second year when you're now, hopefully better than that rookie year. And he was better and got them all the way to the Super Bowl. It's the 3rd year. It's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th years when I would call that's like your super prime for a football player. And a lot of times you start going, for quarterbacks, not always, but for many positions, you start taking a backslide from there. You get to year 6 and now it's like, okay, now you're on the backside. That's how quick these careers go. For quarterbacks, it's a little bit different. But I would say right now, year 3, 4, 5, 6 in this window is Brock Purdy's ultimate prime. And if he's going to win the Super Bowl, it's probably going to come in the next 2 or 3 years.
And I think that's what Fred Warner was saying, right? Like that.
Well, I think Fred is just like, hey, look, we're getting this done. But, it's like almost like he's trying to convince himself.
Like and subscribe. It's good to have you here. Little Memorial Day Monday broadcast. No days off, baby. No days off.
No days off.
49ers
days off. Did you see
49ers running back coach Bobby Turner?
Yes.
Believes the Super Bowl fumble still weighs heavily on Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, it should. Christian McCaffrey did more to help the Niners lose the Super Bowl than win it in that one action, to be totally honest with you. So, yeah, that hurt. That hurt an awful lot. That should weigh on Christian McCaffrey like an anvil. Yeah. He fucked up severely by coughing up the ball on the opening drive where things were just cooking. I mean, the 49ers were going to take a little bit of a establishing tone in that game with that opening drive, and then they just didn't. So
huge play. Karlaftis picked it up. I don't know who popped it out, but yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, and I agree. It should weigh on him. And it just, the fact that it does just shows what a competitor he is and what a high standard he holds himself to. And
yeah, all great athletes are more tortured by their worst moments than they do sit around and celebrate the highlights of their careers. All athletes are tortured by the ones that got away. It's probably one of the most through lines of psychology great athletes talk about. I mean, there is no victory that is sweeter than the losses are bitter.
To me, when I think of that Super Bowl, I think of mindset. I feel like the Chiefs have the proper mindset. I think the 49ers are just still trying to figure out what the proper mindset is. When the Niners got the 3rd and 4 in regulation, I wanted to see them do kind of an Eagles thing where they ran on 3rd and 4 to set up a run on 4th and whatever, you know, or maybe you get it, maybe you run for the first down, but they didn't. They passed on 4th down and they kicked the field on 3rd down. They kicked the field goal on 4th down, and I just think that was the mistake. If you want to say, what was the mistake? The mistake was giving the ball back to Mahomes at the end of regulation and not going for, not playing for 4 downs right there. You got 4 downs. The Eagles in that same situation would have run the ball, and then they would have pushed on 4th down. And they probably would have gotten the first down. They probably would have won the Super Bowl. And to me, that is where Shanahan's got to reassess kind of like where football is and how it's played and get current and start to think more along the lines of the way some of the teams that really lean on analytics heavily, like the Ravens and the
how
Eagles,
to close out games. How to close out games.
Exactly what your mindset should be in a 3rd and 4 situation where handing the ball back to Mahomes with, do you really want to give Patrick Mahomes? We've seen this movie. We know how it ends. We've all seen Mahomes. If he's got a final breath, they got a shot, and it's a real shot. To me, that was the mistake. They should have run the ball on 3rd and 4, got down to 4th and 1, and run it again, and ice the clock, kick the field goal, and win the game.
Yeah, you can't. There's way too many examples of you can't give Mahomes a ball back with timeouts. And I mean, look at what he did to Josh Allen and the Bills, right? The Bills were
going no time. It was like 11 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Some crazy amount of time. And they got Kelsey down the seam. They didn't have anybody on the line of scrimmage against Kelsey in this play that you're talking about. They gave him a free release, and Mahomes hooked up with like a 28-yard pitch and catch, and Butker came on, kicked the field goal, game over. That's the game you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was a free release to the best tight end in football. So, I mean, and then, it's just, the 49ers just haven't been good enough. That's all. They haven't been good enough. This Kansas City team, it's going to take a Herculean effort to beat them. And then, I hate to say this because it's fucking loser talk, but I think it's fair. When the Chiefs played Tampa in the Super Bowl, they couldn't block Tampa's front, and they got called for holding penalties. When the Niners played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl 54 and in 58, they couldn't block the Niner front, and they bear hugged guys, and they got away with it with no calls.
Not a single holding penalty. Not
one. For a guy led the NFL with like 22 holding penalties for the year. He gets into the biggest game on the biggest stage against Nick Bosa. He can't block him, so he's got to bear hug him. He bear hugs him, and no call.
Trent Williams got a holding penalty.
Yeah.
Trent Williams was called for holding in the game. So
there was the things like that just, the Super Bowl 54 and Super Bowl 55 were officiated so differently. And that was hard to stomach. And then it was really hard to stomach watching these Chiefs tackles. I asked Bosa, I said, hey, you watched Donovan Smith. You watched the other guy. What do you see when you watch them on film? And this is like literally Monday or Tuesday before the first week of the Super Bowl prep. And he's like, well, they hold a lot. I mean, that was his answer. They hold a lot. And it's like, he can see it. I can see it. We all can see it. The refs couldn't see it. Right. Not when it mattered.
Well, Bill Vinovich gets a Super Bowl ring, right?
I'm just saying, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And
it was, but
that was a major contributing factor.
It was, but to me, like if I could hop on the criticism that the chat has given it, like that's the loser talk. Like, okay, that is now crying and whining over spilled milk. We didn't get the calls. That's the loser lament.
That's fine, but it doesn't mean it's not accurate, because it is accurate. I mean, it's loser talk to talk about Bruce Miller getting tackled on Jacoby Jones' 100-yard kickoff return to begin the third quarter in Super Bowl 47. But it was blatant.
He did.
It was blatant. And Jacoby Jones ran right down the lane that Bruce Miller was in.
Right.
And Bruce Miller was being sandwiched and double held. No call there. That was 7 points in the Ravens' favor. That was the difference in the game right there. So, I mean, I understand. It is loser talk. I understand. And it sounds terrible after the fact. Doesn't mean it's not legit. Doesn't mean it's not real. I mean, Niners have you make your own breaks to some degree, but you get some breaks and you don't get some breaks, and they haven't gotten enough breaks in the big games, and they haven't made enough plays. And then and as I said, I don't think Kyle's thinking has been clear enough in that Philadelphia game. I mean, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking this is far too early to use my challenge. That's not the right mindset.
No.
The right mindset is the game started and it's a major play on the road. You need to be ready to throw the challenge flag on the first play of the game. It's not necessarily going to go according to script. It didn't. In an ideal world, you would call that thing with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and you got it saved up and it goes in your favor and man, aren't you lucky? But it could be that the play that needs to be challenged is in the first series of the game. In this case, it was, and he didn't challenge it. And there were multiple indications. You had Hurts sprinting down the field, trying to get a snap off to get to the next play, so they couldn't challenge it. You had Afonga saying, going like this, incomplete. You had 2 indications of you should challenge this, and he didn't.
Well,
so
and
that's on him.
It was like a 50-yard play. I mean, it was a field flipping play.
Right. Probably going to be the biggest individual play of the game. I mean, ultimately it was. But and we all know with the injury and how things went in that game. But I'm just saying, you gotta be flexible. You got to be flexible. It's not always going to go according to the way you want it to go. And you got to know the rules in overtime. You got to know the rules.
Right. Larry, are you trying to make me throw up? Is that what you're trying to do here? You're picking all these old scabs of pain for Niners.
Will Damon Yak?
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I feel better now than I did at the beginning of the show.
Wait, somebody else
coming out.
Here's one of my favorites. Enough.
Fair enough. You got it, Yan. You got it.
Jan Shozela. Enough.
Pain, man. The bitter sticks around longer than the sweet. That's the way it goes in sports.
But I mean, Shanahan has had his mistakes, and yet I still think there's very few coaches I would trade him for. Very few.
Well, I mean, very few is just one. That's it. I wouldn't move on from Shanahan for anyone other than Andy Reid.
Okay, I'm not quite there, but I'm you're saying Andy Reid. I'll say Andy Reid, Sean McVay. I'm a Sean McVay fan.
Okay, John Harbaugh.
I think I'd rather have Shanahan, but John Harbaugh's a better game manager. There's no question.
Mike McDaniel.
No, I'd rather have Shanahan.
Back to Jim Harbaugh.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'd rather be around Shanahan than be around Harbaugh.
Right.
I mean, I can see why the Niners and Jed and Parag, and you can see why Jim Harbaugh is a jackass, pain in the ass. You know what I mean? You can see why he
wears it like a badge of honor. He really does.
He likes to annoy.
He likes to shit disturb. He does.
Yeah. I do think Jim Harbaugh is one of the handful of best coaches. I mean, just the fact that he got it done at Michigan. I mean, it didn't 3 years ago even. Did it look like Jim Harbaugh was going to win a national championship at Michigan? Did it look like Jim Harbaugh was going to beat Ohio State? No.
3 years ago, there was talk like Jim's on borrowed time.
Right.
If he weren't Jim Harbaugh, they probably already had moved on from him. They moved on to Gary Moeller. They're going to move,
Right. It was like 3 years ago. He was the guy that wasn't going to win at Michigan, wasn't going to be able to beat Ohio State, wasn't going to be able to climb to the top of the college football world. And here we are. They beat Ohio State. They won the national championship. You know what I mean? So Jim Harbaugh is a pretty damn good coach, but I just think he wears like shit. You know, let's be honest. I mean, after a while, the who's got it better than us. It's a great college thing. It doesn't work after a while.
The who's got it better than us is the best part about him. Like
but it works in college,
right? Well,
it's like he's like a perfect college coach because he by the time you've heard all of his stupid comments, it's time to graduate, and now it's on to some new freshmen who can hear it. Right. Where if you're like got a 6-year contract with the Niners, you're like, dude, if I got to hear this guy with the Sharpie in his shirt yell, "Who's got it better than us?" Do I see yak?
No.
Was there a little yak coming there?
Sneeze
all right.
Yak free hand.
I don't know the way you started kind of putting your.
I got all red. When I sneeze, I get red like I'm having another stroke. I get all flushed when I sneeze.
Never fight it. Don't fight it. Let it go.
Well, I do. I let it rip, and it's.
By the way, during the pandemic, man, if somebody sneezed, it was like, at church or anywhere.
I remember in the early days of like,
you sneezed,
right? I remember not walking down a grocery aisle because a nice old lady at the end of it coughed, and I'm like, I guess I'm not going to go down this aisle right now. I'll wait.
I just saw something yesterday at Walgreens was awesome. This guy had 2 masks. He had the 95 mask, the massive mask. Then he had a little blue mask over the 95 mask. He had double masked. And I'm like, wow, this guy's really, really, he's really, it was 4 years ago. And he's still masking up. I walk outside. He's getting on a motorcycle. I mean, just like, I'm thinking to myself, bro, you're probably going to die because of the motorcycle before you're going to die because of some germ.
Well, if we're really talking about like who's your favorite body health hypocrite, my favorite is the smoking vegetarian. That's my favorite. That's my favorite body hypocrite in the world. The smoking vegetarian. Don't eat meat. Pulling Marlboro Reds.
Excuse me. I'd like some cauliflower and some Cools.
Yeah.
We get a carton of Cools and some cauliflower. I'm doing a cauliflower quiche.
Menthol quiche.
Dude, have you ever smoked a menthol cigarette?
Larry, I've never taken a single puff off of a cigarette in my entire life.
Really?
Not one. Not a puff.
Not just wasted at a party and someone's like, hey,
never, not one.
Good for you. That that's good.
I mean, I smoke weed like a chimney's lit, you know what I mean? But I don't.
A buddy of mine was smoking menthols one day, and I'm like, I'll have one of those. Give me one of those. And it was terrible. It was like cool coating, but it's just terrible.
Yeah. No, never, ever, 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 ever smoked a drag, a puff, not once off of a cigarette. Not once.
Well, you're not missing anything.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
It's a filthy, awful habit.
My question was always like, what do you get out of that? Do you get high? You get buzzed? No. Why are you doing it? You bored?
Well, I think it does give some people buzzed. It's kind of like when you dip. And that's you get a little bit of a buzz.
Here's my body hypocrite, Larry. Never ever touched a cigarette, but I dipped for years.
Yeah.
So again, it's not like
I don't touch that stuff. I'm smarter than that. I dip instead. What was your dip of choice? Wait, let's guess Damon's dip. Tolbert loved the cherry skull. And I looked it up. The cherry skull has the highest concentration of glass particles in it. That's what they put shards of glass to cut your gum so that the tobacco goes in there. But he used to go with the cherry skull, which is that's pretty sweet. I I used to go with I started off with the Bandits. Remember the Bandits?
It's how you start.
Yeah, I went Bandits. Then I was going Then eventually I got to Copenhagen Snuff, which is just
that's now.
If you're a broadcaster, I mean it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Then I switched from Copenhagen Snuff to Copenhagen Long Cut. And I probably dipped for 5 or 6 years, but I just had to quit, man. It was it was tough. You know what helped me quit? I'll tell you what helped me quit. And I would, if there's somebody out here, because today is the date that my aunt died, and she smoked cigarettes forever, and it killed her, right? And so I think of her on Memorial Day often. She died probably over a decade ago, but she could never beat cigarettes, and she could never beat nicotine, and it's really, really a tough thing. And there's a lot of people out there that want to quit, and they just don't believe they can. So I'm like Damon. I didn't smoke, but I chewed, and I wanted to quit, and I was having a hard time quitting, and I was freaking major chewer. I mean, I was chewing in the morning, chewing in the evening, chewing on the air.
I bought logs. I didn't buy them individually. I got logs. I kept them in the freezer.
Right. Yeah. When I was scouting, we used to, they used to give us, I mean, I think that it would show up. I think they were giving the coaches chew for free. But anyway, I read an article, and a lot of times you just need to get your head around mentally, and I read an article that 95% of the withdrawals that you feel from nicotine are gone after 72 hours.
Yeah.
So if you can just hold on for 3 days of being uncomfortable and just in that nick fit and that kind of like, I gotta, where is it? If you can hold on for 3 days, you're 95% of the way home. Think about that for a second. So if you're one of these guys going, I can't do it. I've tried. Just listen to Uncle Larry here saying, you know what? If you can quit for 3 days, don't tell yourself you're quitting forever. Just say, I'm quitting for 3 days. If you can quit smoking or chewing for 3 days, 95% of the physical withdrawals and effects are not there, and you're literally 95% of the way home.
A lot easier said than done, that's for sure.
But that's would be my advice to anybody.
Right
Give it 3 days and then see how far you can take it.
I would still be dipping. I would dip right now. Like if you told me, Damon, you only got a week to live, I'd be like, oh fuck, give me a dip. Let's go. I would. I
still feel when I'm watching baseball, whether it be at the Giants game or youth baseball. I really, or if I'm watching film with football film, anything where I'm just, and my replacement is I go with low sodium sunflower seeds, and I just pack them in there.
Right.
I just get like a big handful. It's a gigantic. It almost makes your lip feel even tighter because they're even bigger. You got to go low sodium, otherwise you're just gonna ruin your gums with sodium.
Yeah, but
but low sodium seeds give me that kind of I don't know, oral fixation, if you will, and then just the mentality of knowing that, hey, if you just give it 3 days, you're most of the way home. And it worked for me. And I tried to quit a lot of different ways. So I would just tell anybody, give it 3 days. You'll be glad you did.
I had a stroke.
That's what made you quit.
Cold turkey from that day in the hospital bed. That's what made me quit. Were you wanting it in the hospital bed? I want a dip right now, Larry. I would have loved a dip right now. I used to love throwing in a dip. I even was joking around with Jillian. I'm telling her, like, when this NCAA college football video game comes out, that's when I might take my first vacation. My first, I'm not doing shows because I just want to play this damn video game 24 hours a day for about a week. And I even was joking with Jillian. I'm like, I might buy a can of dip. And she's like, don't you dare.
Have you ever passed out with a dip in your mouth?
No.
It's awful.
No. But I would do it right now. but I just won't, because I'm going to go right back to it if I start, and then I'm going to start sneaking them downstairs. I know me. I get sneaky with the shit I'm trying to keep from Jillian. So I'm not doing
That's the other thing. Do you want to be sneaking around?
No.
You know?
And then there's always like, there's no, dude, Jack or Ozzy's going to find the spitter. They're going to take a sip of it. And then my wife.
Jack or Ozzy's drinking spit juice.
Exactly. Then I got,
then
my
you're
wife
really done
for divorce attorneys, and rightfully so at that point. So the two things, talking about body hypocrites. Hey, Damon, since the stroke, do you do a lot of working out? Have you lost a lot of weight? Well, no and no, unfortunately. But I haven't had a dip, and I haven't had a bite of fast food since 2016. I mean, I've still eaten cheeseburgers, but just not McDonald's, not Burger King, not Wendy's. I don't eat any fast food.
Yeah, I don't. I've turned. I'm not a fast food guy. I can steer clear of that.
Well, that's why
it never makes me feel good.
Runner's body, Larry.
It makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I don't know if you heard. Did you hear that this week, the guy who did the I'm going to eat McDonald's every day for like a certain number of days.
Spurlock died. Yeah.
He died. Yeah. He died at like 53 or something.
Cancer, Larry. He had cancer.
But I mean, I'm just saying, these things are all related. I mean, it's, there's a great book out there. I read it in college. It's called Diet for New America. And it just outlines just the crazy things that the fast food industry does to there's styrofoam and some of these milkshakes and just all kinds of weird stuff out there that they try to get people hooked on in mass. So yeah, I think, so when you say no fast food, no Chick-fil-A, is that fast food?
Okay. So I have had a Chick-fil-A.
Okay. That's fast food.
I have had a Chick-fil-A, but not many of them.
Chipotle?
Never. I live in San Francisco. Why would I eat Chipotle? What am I, douchebag? Greatest burritos in the world are a block away from my house. I'm not going to Chipotle.
What's your greatest burrito of all time?
I mean, there is no one and only great burrito in San Francisco. That's why
you going Zona Rosa and the Haight. You going? What's our place that we used to go on 16th and Geary, and then it was another one, Gordo.
No, Gordo is burritos for white girls. That's terrible.
I like Gordo, dude. Gordo's. How could you say that? Gordo. Every person that works at Gordo is not white.
Every person.
It's somewhat authentic. Yeah. It's somewhat authentic. It's more authentic than Chipotle.
Kinda. I don't know. I never liked it.
The boiled chicken with the oh my god, and the spinach wrap, and I love Gordo. Well, what's your spot then? If you don't like Gordo, because Gordo's pretty authentic. What else do you? Yeah. So you're going someplace on the Mission Street somewhere?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good places in the Mission, but now that I live on the south side of town, out here by City College, right on Ocean Avenue, there's this place called Jalapenos. And this old grandma is back there cranking out like tasty burrito. My favorite burrito has made 0 lists. Nobody knows about this restaurant.
Is it towards Reardon or towards like 19th Avenue? Is it what part of Ocean Avenue are we talking about?
Yeah, like by the El Rey. Like you're kind of in the middle of Ocean Avenue.
Okay.
It's good. It's jalapeno.
Check it out. I'll check it out.
It's really good. And the other thing, like technically, I guess it is a fast food situation. Beep's Burger. I will eat a Beep's Burger, not once a week, but every 3 weeks, I can go to Beep's and get a burger there. That is one of the greatest cheeseburgers ever. Phenomenal.
If you ever go up to Sac, there was a hut up there. It was a greasy hut. It was called I just zoned on it. It was just the most ridiculous place. It was highlighted on Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and it was just this hut. It was the greasiest burgers of all time. I mean, it was just ridiculous. I forgot. Now I zoned on it.
It'll come to you as soon as you hit end stream. It'll pop up in your mind.
Greasy Sacramento burger place. It was been there forever. I mean, it smells like grease when you walk in there. It's kind of disgusting, but it's the Squeeze. It was called the Squeeze.
The squeeze.
Yeah, and then you could get the squeeze with cheese. Oh my God, it was just unbelievably greasy.
The squeeze with cheese.
Squeeze with cheese.
Here's the thing.
What about you don't go In-N-Out?
No, I hate In-N-Out burgers. I think it's the wettest, crappiest cheeseburger that is famous only because most of the country doesn't get it. It's like
I like In-N-Out more than like Five Guys. I like In-N-Out more than Whataburger. I like In-N-Out more than Fat Burger. I like In-N-Out. I would say I like In-N-Out more than most. Yeah. So my kid, who's like skinny as heck, who's in high school, he'll go like a 3x3 with like 3 patties, and oh my God, it's like, dude, what are you doing? But and then of course he's got a. I know.
By the way, this is maybe my most controversial public position ever, because I know people like pray at the altar of In-N-Out Burger. I'm going to tell you right now.
It's good compared to other burgers of its category.
Beeps, and you'll never talk about an In-N-Out Burger again in your life.
Beeps is local.
Beeps is very local.
I'll tell you, I'll give you one that I think is kind of underrated. And I've never been disappointed. I've been to multiple different spots. I've been to the one in El Cerrito, the one in Orinda. Nations is a solid burger. Nations.
I mean, aren't they more famous for like their pie or something? I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, they do breakfast as well. But Nations. Okay. Hey, Robert Prado, there he is. Nations.
Never eaten it in Nations.
Yeah, no, the burgers are fat, but yeah, you're right. You can get like a blackberry pie. Oh,
Gott's is a good burger at the Ferry Building. I still haven't had.
Oh, you know what? There's one out here in Walnut Creek. There's one out here in Walnut Creek. Gott's.
That's a good burger.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So have we got anything else on Niner? I think we're done with Niners. We're definitely in the talking about cheeseburger portion of the show, which means we got a couple of things to do. And I can hear Jillian starting to yell at the kids upstairs, which means we're on borrowed time already.
Like, does she get really angry?
No, but the kids are a lot. To be, she's getting double teamed up there with a 4.5-year-old, 2.5-year-old. Jack is officially entering his, it's not as cute as it used to be. He's kind of being a dick phase with his brother. So Jack is kind of being a dick, and Ozzy is like asking for it and setting him up to be a dick, because then we yell at Jack, and I think Ozzy gets off on that. Like, you just got brothers playing against each other is what's going on upstairs. A couple of other things that are happening in sports that I feel like we got to get on here.
All right,
because Phillies at Giants. Do we see Blake Snell? This is like the third time he's been listed as a potential starter, and then whatever reason he doesn't go. I think he's got a pregnant wife, so he maybe doesn't go. Yeah, Jillian just gave me the wrap it up from outside the window. 2:05 Memorial Day start time. Hey, Giants, they just had an unbelievable amount of coming back, sandwiched around 2 totally blown 9th innings. So it's at least been interesting and fun. Hasn't always worked out to the winning column.
They should have gone at least 5-1 on the road trip. Instead, they went 4-2, I think, right?
Yeah. Dude, Dodgers have lost 5 in a row. And if you look at your standings, the Giants are in second place today.
The Giants need to trade for Vladdy Jr.
Or Pete Alonso.
Well, the thing is, Pete Alonso, I get the feeling from what I'm reading and hearing is that Pete Alonso, even if he doesn't get traded, wants to sign East. So maybe Pete Alonso's, and maybe, you know what? I'll say this, and I don't know if you agree with me on this one. The Giants have to stop cock teasing their fans with, we're going to sign this guy, we're going to sign that guy. No more of that shit.
Yeah.
No more. Let's lead the entire fan base around by the nose, only to have Farhan say, I failed, and to have every Giant media person say Farhan could not have done more to succeed despite the fact that he failed. It's like
the Giants' presentation was incredible. They did all they could.
They did all they could. Nobody could have done a better job than the Giants did to attract the free agent that they did not sign.
I just heard I just heard a tone in my wife's voice that says this show is over now, Larry. I gotta go. I gotta go. It's going wrong upstairs. By the way,
right, let's read the supers and we'll get
Dallas and Boston both up 3-0. I think we're gonna get swept on the way to an NBA Finals. But
I like Dallas to win it all. If you were standing in a casino, would you bet Dallas or would you bet Boston?
I would do Kyrie. Again, we spent so much time telling Kyrie Irving jokes, we forgot how good he was. Holy shit.
He's
man.
One of the best finishers there is in the NBA. He's one of the best players in the NBA that nobody talks about.
I live in Rodeo, enjoying the show from Pleasanton at work. What are you doing at work? It's Memorial Day. But Joseph, thank you very much for the super chat. What else you got there, Larry?
I loved Rodeo, and I was there this weekend. All right.
What about trade Debo and tag Aiyuk? We'd also be able to keep Jennings doing that. Kyle Benz.
Who wants Debo? And what are you getting coming back? That would be my question.
Mondgreen
Eggcorn, which is just rolls off the tongue.
It's great. The 49ers cycle running back, wide receiver, and linebacker depth approximately for 24, and utilized depth is new coaching tree going to remove blinders off Shanahan and be the voice of reason using the full 52. Hey, this is something that we've been talking about. This is something that we talked about last year. The 49ers got this incredibly deep team, and they don't use it enough. And I do hope that they do cycle guys out of low leverage situations for some backups when the time is right to do that.
Yeah. And it's go time this summer for Beal and Drake. And if they aren't ready to roll, then you got to move on and you got to find other guys. But yeah, the Niners have to use their depth at wide receiver, use their depth at running back. They can't get into these big games and wind up with no Greenlaw and a beat up McCaffrey. And it's all because they just refuse to, spread the wealth around.
All right. Come here.
What do you got?
Come here. Am I done with my show?
Let me see this.
I am kid. Now. This is.
Let's see this.
That was your show.
You told Jack that I was done with the show?
Yeah.
Does mommy want me to be done with the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to say hi to Larry? Say hi to Larry.
Hi.
Hey, what's going on, Oz? How's Jose doing? See Ozzy and Jose. Get it?
Yes.
I have my pajamas still.
You got your pajamas on still? You sure do.
Well, it's kind of late for pajamas, isn't it? I mean,
both these kids are Hugh Hefner. They rock pajamas all day.
You know what? That's a very good shave that he's got. I mean, there's no 5 o'clock shadow. There's no beard line. Look at that. It's like he just shaved.
Do you are you going to grow a beard?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you're gonna grow a beard one day?
I love the shoulder shrugs.
I can grow a beard.
I could. I might grow a beard.
He might. The kids are very expressive. There's a lot of talking with their hands. They're like 2 Italian kids. We're not Italian, but they talk with their hands like a grandma. I mean, it's incredible. All right. So there.
All right. What does Ozzy want for dinner tonight? If he got to choose tonight, what do you?
You want eggs for dinner tonight?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Eggs.
There you go. Eggs.
Eggs.
Because I made eggs.
You eat your eggs. You do eat your eggs. Look in the camera. Look in the camera. Look in the camera. There you go.
Look at that. Look at that kid.
All right, pal.
All right, man.
Good to see you.
That's it. That's going to do it for us.
Italians tried the minestrone. Take care.
The greatest thing about that kid is he's going to eat his eggs, and he's going to eat every single one of his eggs. And the last thing he's going to do, he's going to look at his dad, and he's going to say, I got 2 strong ACLs because I ate my eggs.